You can do a couple yourself.
Really? How you doing?
You have a hard one for Sam.
No, officials.
I go with. That's right.
Likewise. Pretty crazy. Yep. Somebody take, pickles.
Sam would love to.
Or, thanks, Sam.
Oh, no, Brittany tonight?
Nope.
And then my cousin and his wife just moved back from China, and are living in Minnesota, in that area and stuff. They say, come down and see us. Get my husband to travel. Usually when it's like traveling,
Mailbox replacement.
oh, I see these guys.
That's Brian.
Did you want to see this invite?
Oh, my wife, it's my wife's one that's down.
You see the,
Yeah, I saw it.
Well, this way.
see our little buddy today in the corner, staring down at his phone.
A little bit.
Just a
A little
little
bit?
bit.
Oh, wow.
There's one car up being go.
Oh, boy.
You?
I think we went last year.
I think I did.
You
I
did?
left earlier, didn't I?
Yeah, we stayed home.
Yeah.
We stopped for breakfast.
The responsible ones
Bill
left.
left, yeah. Good, how are you?
I had something to be back for. I don't know what. Comp plan? We're
So
doing
that
comp plan already?
cute little grandson of yours
No,
in
but
church.
there
I
was some,
like,
yeah.
That started
back
like
when I was
April.
kind of watching him one day.
Pretty easy to do.
Yeah, I was like, oh,
Yeah,
he's
I
so
said,
cute.
projects were pretty smart.
Somebody stops
Yeah,
for it on
I
that on the
was
way.
gonna
One
He's
time.
definitely
a marketing plan for number two.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
they're
what
not all
they're
that
gonna
easy.
get. Yeah, right, I know.
This isn't normal.
No, God does that.
He just wants a brother or sister.
Uh-huh.
Is it aspartame?
And then it's whatever the last one is.
Oh, yeah.
That's the one
Really
that's
wasn't even that bad, really.
No. Now they decided, you know what, we're just gonna fix this one up and stay here and then so.
We were home before the game.
What is that, pizza? Oh.
You. Didn't I tell you? You thought I was just kidding you.
Babe, said
Right,
shell.
right. I don't either.
Right.
Oh,
Only in this
boy.
What?
I don't either.
Keeping the game together.
Oh, this isn't gonna make her happy.
What's going on over there, giggling at me?
Yeah, sure, the wording. Oh, shall. I said something to him this morning, and he's like, no, I think it's May. I'm like,
Be able to even read one.
now he's like, well, maybe not.
If I'm Bill.
Okay, yep.
Should be. It's gonna be awesome. Goodness, this is a long minute.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. First first up was additions to and or approval of the agenda.
Mayor, two changes here, three changes. I remove the digital sign from old business. Then under new business, I'd like to remove the change order. Then on your desks, you have a resolution with some minor adjustments that I'd like to add under new business.
So under H,
No,
Well, it'd be
it'd be G, but.
5G, but then we'll go up to F. After the server.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Police department.
On the back, you got city council plans.
Yeah, there is a
so it'll
G.
be G because A is gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, G. Motion to approve as amended?
Second.
Motion is second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, agenda is approved as amended. Any visitors to be heard? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion is second, any discussion? I guess I wanted a little bit, looked like the phone was not working for the off-hours thing. And
Yeah. Cal, you can do that at all, on-call phone.
the on-call phone, is it in there, gonna be something different? Is that,
didn't know which phone you were referencing.
oh, sorry.
So, yeah, we used to have a plan with Verizon. It was just essentially like an app that we think we paid like a monthly fee for. And all of us employees would have it downloaded onto our phone. And then we just like switch it on when who's ever on call that week.
Okay,
But we were having issues where, the person that would have it on wouldn't receive it, and then someone else would receive it if they had it on. So it was just kind of really inconsistent. And after, I think we contacted customer support a few times and just couldn't get anything kind of figured out. So we tried to go with the Microsoft. Brian was kind of involved with that. I wasn't really around when he was doing that. But it sounded like it wasn't working out for him.
He tried to do AT&T.
Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah, and it didn't, it was,
Not
they
what was
promised us the world and they didn't.
Yeah, so there was some confusion about like, each employee would have to pay a monthly fee
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, and it was like, no, that's not what you told us.
Yeah.
They made it sound like it was just like Verizon. Verizon, we ran out of users, that's why we, switched over to
Sure, yeah.
AT&T. Cause they told us that they would provide us with 6 or 10 users for the same price. But that was not the case. So once we got into it, it turned out to be that they wanted $30 per person. And it's like, no. You said $30 and we could add as many people as we needed to.
Yeah, so there was some confusion, I think we all got together at an employee meeting, and we just decided just to have a stationary phone that the employee will take home every day and for the weekend to have it on call.
So there's another phone that has this dedicated
So
phone number.
we eliminated,
Yeah.
Right,
we eliminated the apps.
yep,
We went to just a phone through Verizon.
So it's just making sure the person who's on call remembers to grab the phone.
Yes, they have to have
Yes.
the phone.
yeah. I was on call this weekend, it's kind of a burden carrying two phones, but it is what it is for now.
Okay. I just had seen that in there, I'm like, I didn't know that was,
Yeah.
had been an issue, so, okay, thank you.
Okay, you bet.
Anything else?
Could you just forward it to whoever's on call?
That's what that app really did. It forwarded it from the on-call number to, it routed it through the app to whoever was on call, but it wasn't working correctly. So it
Or
would
could you forward this new line to, say, Kyle's phone when he's on call?
possibly,
There might be some,
possibly.
we just had this our first week of doing this, so.
Yeah,
It's
I
an idea.
mean, that way you don't have to carry two phones.
I think the problem is that,
But you
it's
probably
okay if they are able to answer it, but if they have to leave a message and then call them back, then they're calling them on their phone and it comes up their number. So that was what the other app didn't do. The other app would call back with the,
That call in
the,
number.
the on-call number. So that was the whole issue.
We have a star 67 feature activated. You just block it when you call back.
There you go.
We could get you could block it. There's a way to do that.
Right.
That's what we do, I guess, at work.
Oh,
All right. Okay, so we had a motion and a second. We'll do roll call. Doherty.
Aye.
Spear.
Aye.
Riley.
Aye.
Bowers.
Aye.
Welch.
Aye.
All right, consent agenda is approved. Under old business, ordinance 649, supplemental budget.
All right, this is our second reading. Again, it's basically the same thing that we talked about the last time. I misjudged mainly the salaries. But I did, I think I gave everybody the revenue and expense that you could go through and look at. Did anybody have any questions? If not, I would ask for a motion to approve the second reading of the supplemental budget.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second, any discussion there?
Is there a way to prevent that from happening every year with the salary side of it?
Yeah, I would say, I'm gonna tell her to, or him to go, so if you think it's 1,000, go 1,200, or 1,500. It was just a matter of, I think, like the streets, there was some overtime, and there was just some different things that happened, and so, I just tried to forecast it the best I could.
All right, anything else? So a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, ordinance 649, second reading is approved.
Thank you.
Under new business, tax abatement application.
Mayor and council, we received a tax abatement application from Lincoln County for abatement under SDCL 10-6A. This application is for parcel 250.1A.10.004. So this is a multifamily property of fourplex at the corner of Center and Cherry. The abatement only applies to 25% of the property, as that's what is owner occupied or was owner occupied. Following discussion with Lincoln County, we're okay with proceeding with this abatement. Note though that the property has closed, I think it closed last week. And that effectively ends the abatement. So it's kind of a moot issue at this point, but we do have to take action on it. So recommend a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion there? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, tax abatement application is approved. Next is audit engagement letter.
Mayor and council, this is our annual audit engagement letter with Shane Fish and Company out of Parkston. We use Shane Fish for our audit for several years now and like to continue doing so. We've been presented with their engagement letter in anticipation of this year's audit. As we expected and as we noted last fall, the price has increased due to the addition of federal grant dollars we received. So once you reach over $750,000 in federal expenditures, then you need to have a federal audit. So that increase was included in our budget this year. Recommend a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All right, need roll call since this was in the budget? No?
No.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, audit engagement letter is approved. Next is agreement with alternative HR.
Mayor and council, I mentioned at the last meeting, I had a desire to speak with local HR consultant regarding their services about some compliance questions around FLSA. I also had a reminder last week that our our personnel file reviews were due, so we're trying to do an audit review. We've had other HR issues that would benefit from an outside perspective as well. So several communities have been using a local firm, alternative HR, for some time, and so I reached out to them. Attached an email that kind of provides an overview of their services. I don't have a service agreement at this point, but if there's no objections from the city attorney to what agreement when it's received, I'd like to proceed with a couple of services that they provide. The first is an HR risk assessment, and that's to take a look at our full HR practices. They'll look at our files, audit those, look at our hiring practices, our advertising, recruiting, recruitment, benefits, all that stuff all together, and provide feedback on where we are compliance-wise and best practice-wise. On top of that, they have an on-demand service for $99 a month that I'd like to enroll in. I think the risk assessment is very important. And I do have some training in human resource management, but I'm far from an expert in that field. And so having an outside resource would certainly be beneficial as we try and button that side of our organization up a little bit. Since we don't have an actual agreement in front of us, I'm hoping, given the minimal nature of the dollar amount here, that you'll be okay with a motion to authorize me to execute that service agreement when it's received, pending city attorney approval.
Motion to approve your, or motion to give you the go-ahead per city attorney's approval.
So does this give us the option for the as needed hourly rate as well? Do we anticipate needing that?
I'd say 6 months out of 12, I would use it for sure. Just based on past practice. I think given, some of it depends on hiring practices. Some of it depends on how frequently we're hiring. Some of it is, these kind of thorny issues around FLSA where we're not really all that skilled. How beneficial is that to us in terms of a dollar amount? If that's something that we don't do, we do have, under their fractional human resources, that first one, where they can provide that same type of as-needed help as on HR-related projects, on an on-call kind of or project-based, at $155 to $215 an hour.
Have you reached out to whomever our insurance provider is? Because a lot of times they offer these same services if you have what's called employment practices liability.
The municipal league does have an HR sort of hotline. It's made up, from what I understand of.
Yeah, but this wouldn't be the municipal league. This would be like, this is a person, this is all they do. They're like a loss control representative. Like they come in and they'll audit your
But it's
stuff.
an hour, you get 1 hour for, it's not,
Is it billed or is it free?
it's, the first hour is free.
Okay.
I mean, just an idea to,
But I don't think they go into that much depth of what you want. It's more like you can call them and ask them a question.
General questions?
Yeah.
Okay. So that'd be more like they're on demand, maybe. Not the risk assessment.
Yeah, no, I don't think they would do a risk assessment. Maybe they would, but I'm sure there's a cost to it.
So can you explain a little bit more what that risk assessment would do or what you're wanting to get out of it?
What I want to get out of it is take an outside look at our HR practices. A file audit is one thing. We can do those, but that's not something we typically do. It's not something we have a lot of skill in. Hiring practices. We know what questions to ask and not ask during a hiring process. Are we missing other things in that process that we should be looking into? I think we've certainly increased our capabilities when it comes to background checks. And the background check service we use is responsible for all the federal compliance on that. But what else in that training process or in that hiring process are we missing? What else in the HR compliance world are we not hitting on?
Do you have any kind of estimate how many hours you anticipate you would use of the on-call service? Maybe we're talking 1 hour a month or?
It's every year is different. I mean,
Yeah.
it's, if you look at, we've had years where there's really not any kind of HR personnel or performance type issue for 9 months. And all of a sudden we've got 6 of them crammed into 3 months, usually warm months. So it's hard to say, I hate to guess.
We've definitely had some instances that it would have been nice to have.
Mhm.
Did we lean on legal counsel for that HR advice?
Yeah,
I'm guessing that's at a much higher rate.
It is.
This
it is, and I mean, Brett's a great attorney, and provides good advice that I trust a lot, but he's not specialized in the field either. You know, we're talking about SHRM certified HR professionals in this case, so. Brett's rate is $230. Yeah, I think $230 an hour if I remember right.
Did they waive the travel time of 155?
They did not. They did not. I think most of their work is done inside a certain circle in Sioux Falls, and we would be outside of that, so they did not waive that.
So then it's that number, 1860 plus the 155
Plus the
plus
155, plus mileage.
50 mile round trip or whatever they want to call it.
I'm still okay with my motion that I made, but I would like, given Alderman Riley's suggestion, to at least look into our insurance and see what they have. I mean, if that's an alternative, that is actually worth looking into.
Or use that 1 hour and then use this,
Then move on.
if it gives us anything of it.
Yeah.
Let's take advantage of it.
Should we see, does it make sense to check first if they offer the risk assessment?
I think so.
Yeah, I would call whoever.
I don't think they do, but I think it makes sense. to
Yeah,
me.
I don't think they do either, but I could be wrong too.
I would call whoever your agent is, and I would ask them what loss control services they provide for a city.
On the HR side. We've had plenty of loss control visits, but they're all focused on either work comp or property liability or general capital.
So you need to talk, and if we don't have employment practices liability insurance, you need to look into it.
It's gonna be, I would say we'll have to put a general question on the email for.
I'd recommend a motion to table for now.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to table this. Any further discussion there? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we will revisit that. Next up is American Legion Hall lease agreement.
Mayor and council, our lease agreement for the Legion Hall for use of the senior center is expiring. Unfortunately, I missed the deadline for the lease renewal notification on the agreement. We both feel the lease continues to be beneficial. We've actually seen several new attendees at the lunches at the senior center, so things seem to be going well there as well. We did request a change in the new lease language. I'm just waiting for Brett to okay the language I put in there. That changes the term to an automatic renew every year with a 60-day notice to terminate by either party. So that we don't every year have to go through this exercise of do we want to keep doing it or not. They met Saturday morning, did not see a need for changing the lease amount at all. And so everything looks good there. What I'm looking for is a motion to approve lease agreement pending final approval for the city attorney.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second there. Any discussion?
Do we need to build in some sort of escalator to be fair to where it goes up a nominal amount every year?
You certainly can offer it if you want to base it off of rolling CPI or something along those lines.
Well, I just, I mean, they're a nonprofit. It
Mhm.
makes sense to be fair with them. I mean, they're there to serve a membership. My opinion.
If that is the direction of the council, we'll certainly have that in.
What's everyone else's thoughts?
I think that makes sense. I guess I don't wanna limit them if there's like some other costs above and beyond the CPI that
Right.
we'd lock them in unfairly or anything, but, and then like, also, like, for them to come and say, well, it's 20% more this year for no, and they can't give us a reason.
I think this gives us better protection of our seniors.
Yeah.
And it's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fair to them, it's fair to us. It's
What would you like that number to be? Is it based on the March rolling CPI, based on what we do for COLAs? To base it off of what the
We get a yearly.
state says we can increase?
yearly CPI instead of
Yeah, the state sets a number for us to, the maximum increase for our levy every year. The only risk with that is that it lags behind. Like, you know, in 2021, we know that inflation was closer to 12%. Our CPI, 3. It's a miracle. Inflation was not that bad after all. So, you know, that's the only risk you really have, is that if you tie it to the state CPI, they set that in like July or something. And by the time we get to the end of
It
budget
doesn't
season,
go
it's
over
changed.
3%.
And it can't be more than 3, correct?
Whatever's a fair, easy number that's not burdensome to either side.
Yeah, like.
I think you're rolling CPI in March.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's.
Okay.
So we need to amend those motions.
No, we're just authorizing you to negotiate.
Yeah, it's still pending Brett's approval.
It is.
Fair enough.
Yeah, if everybody concurs, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
No objections, so.
So then we had a motion, a second, all in favor?
Right.
Any opposed? All right. I'm glad that the agreement is working out for everybody. It's been good.
Yeah, I've seen at least a couple of my neighbors in there, which has been, I think, good for the group, good for the neighbors.
Yeah.
I think everybody seems to be enjoying it.
Good. All right, up next is police department server proposal.
Mayor, council. In your packets, I put a quote from Rastec as well as a letter just kind of outlining the need for the upgrade to put the police department on its own server. Currently, right now, the police department has a small portion of the city server that we are using. For a police department aspect of things, that's not good practice. We have sensitive materials and we have no control, in essence, of those materials. After some conversations that Nate and I have had over the situation, we've discussed finding the appropriate way to move forward to make sure that we can get these in place. He reached out to Rastec, they got a good quote together. I reached out to Lincoln County's IT just to run it by them to see if they had any concerns over it. The only concern was the amount of memory storage that we currently have built in right now. But from the sounds of it, this is completely expandable as we go down the road. And the amount of storage that's on here, we'll probably eat that up in the next 2 years with the amount of data that we transfer from just our body cameras and our in-car cameras. So, Lincoln County, when they were concerned about it, they thought it should be somewhere right around between 15 and 20 gig that we had, or terabytes, sorry. And currently, right now, I believe it's only set up for 2. The project itself, we were able to carve some out of the current budget. I had about 15 grand set aside for some radios. I was able to acquire some radios for free, had them bench tested, they worked fine. It's about a 16 grand savings for the department. Then we were also going to get a standalone printer. After talking to Denise, she had suggested maybe looking into the same company and contracting it, which that was a much better deal all the way around. So we decided to go that route, had a little bit of money to bring back from that. And then we found some money in some other places inside the budget that give us a little bit of cushion room on top of the overall pool. So I think I'm gonna be good inside the budget, but as I noted, not everything's foreseeable, and something may come up that potentially may cause those areas that I've taken that money from to go. I'll do my best to make sure that that doesn't happen, but I can only do so much.
So are there any other outfits like Rastec that we could get quotes from to make sure that we're getting a fair quote?
There are, but we've got a contract with Rastec as an IT provider. I'd be hesitant to go to another service provider that's not already familiar with our system and needs.
Well, my question is, what's right. I mean, to me, it sounds like the reason we're splitting off this storage is for cybersecurity, right?
Correct.
So does it make sense to go to just a completely different provider than Rastec?
There is a line of thought that says that that is correct. It doesn't mean that that's something we have to do.
No, I'm not saying we have to, but I mean, we're just having a discussion about it. I mean, does that mean, I mean, if we're looking for true total separation, to me, it would make sense that we go find another person, and that's who our police department goes through for their cameras and their investigation stuff.
Yeah, I guess I don't know how all that stuff intertwines and if.
Yeah, I don't know what the practices are. I don't,
If there's firewalls that separate the two, if you use it.
Well, we're using, right now, I mean, the reason to do this is to keep, sensitive information like evidence
Right.
segregated from those of us who don't need to or should not view it. I don't think changing providers or going to a different contractor is going to change any of those concerns. It's just, you know, there are multiple firms that are capable of providing this service.
It's probably gonna add costs, I guess, by having multiple contracts. It's a valid question, like I said, I personally don't have concerns, but.
yeah, I mean, if the practice is to have it all in one, that's fine, but if we're gonna do it, we might as well do it right. Like, build what they need for future growth unless we know that storage is gonna get cheaper, which it probably will, right?
Right. I will give you an example of T. I've talked to quite a bit with the chief over there, and they got a grant for their IT to upgrade their entire infrastructure, quite a bit larger than what we're looking at implementing. They found their own IT company. The city is now migrating to that IT company.
Okay.
So it's not uncommon to put that all in one. The biggest differential is who has the control and authorization to give access to that. And that's something that Nate and I had talked about. With that amount of sensitive information, it should never be that one person outside of a police department has the ability to gain access to it for any particular reason. It should always be, as I put in there, the chief of police is going to be the one that manages that for their designee. In my loop, my sergeant has the ability to give access to, say, the city attorney, which he would be the only other person besides, you know, potentially if we ever had a commissioner, we would be forwarding information to.
Yeah, I just,
Not
I just didn't
uncommon.
know if it,
Yeah.
I just thought I'd bring it up.
If that's
Throw it out
normal
there.
practice, then yeah, by all means. So that would just make you the only, you and your designee, the only
Administrators,
people, the admins, yeah, that can get into it, right?
Yep, and that's something that Nate and I were talking about, trying to make sure that we have some way to formulate that it's a clear, fine line. Everybody is at that understanding that, say, Nate and I talked about, we're not gonna be here forever. We step away, the next people that come in line, maybe the city administrator wants to take a peek because his kid got pulled over. And with him having access to it, he would be able to do so. And yeah, we agree on that. No one person should have that access or authority outside of the police department.
Didn't you mention also in the past that there's some cases that you couldn't actually oversee because of this server not being separated? There was some sensitive information. I don't know.
There was information that I could not input into our system due to the way that our global administrator is actually ran. There was a time where I'm trying to add new employees into our system, and I had to they told me that I had to get Nate's permission to do that, so Nate had to hurry up and call out Rastec and kind of get that all squared away. So.
Are there ongoing fees for this extra server?
No, this is gonna be a standalone server for us. There is something that was brought to my attention while talking to Lincoln County IT, is if we would like to explore the avenue of going on with a company that they recently took on, it's called iCrimeFighter. They are a web-based platform that they are now using, so they don't have to keep as much in-house storage. But it's still all your information. At the time when you decide to split ways, you can bring all that back to your site. But it would save us a huge cost savings than to keep expanding ours out every time we fill it up. Because some of those videos, when you can pack them down, they're in the highest definition possible, and take up huge amounts on that server.
It's a big cloud base.
And for an agency that large, they're only paying like $20-some thousand for 30-some officers. So they're estimating that we'll probably pay somewhere right around $5,000 to $7,000 and have more than ample space to carry it on the cloud. So we don't have to necessarily expand this program or this server. But if we wanted to expand it, I don't know what the cost, just judging by looking at this. It's very comparable just to keep it on a cloud. Probably even cheaper cost savings because they're going to take all the brunt of the maintenance onto it. They're going to be on the customer or the IT side of things. If something we can't get, it's going to be on them to get it to us, not us calling RasTech, having them figure out what went wrong and potentially coming out here. So,
And they take on all the liability and a breach too.
Correct.
Anytime you're adding a server, you're going to have increased maintenance costs. You know, whether it's our monthly server reboots, updates, those kinds of things, but that would be rolled into our, it wouldn't be charged specifically to PD, it would just be under general government with our other costs.
Gotcha.
I can't imagine that it's going to incur more than what we've already done over the past couple of years.
Or to say, let's keep an eye on, like, when do we need to expand, let's just make sure we plan for it and budget for it and make sure we're
Staying ahead of it.
staying ahead of it, and let's investigate what is the best option. Is it this cloud-based, or is it just adding on more memory, or I don't know.
Is the cloud base like a subscription platform?
Yeah, you'll pay.
Like you pay so much per user per month?
It's by your population base. So that's how they figure it out. With ours, last time I talked to them, which was quite a few years ago, probably 3 years ago, we were at like that 5,000 for a year. And it's not per user, it's just, they estimate this is how much we're gonna allocate a municipality for this size. If we go over, I don't know what that is yet, because I didn't dig that far into it. At the time, that's not something that I was looking at doing. There are a lot of benefits to this, in the sense that if we have to transfer information to Lincoln County, the state's attorney's office, they're already on it. So it's no longer us having to download it into our server and then download it into a portal, and then have them download it into a portal, and it,
Let's give them access to the information directly.
yes, yep, they'd be able to go in and click on it, and they'd have it almost like we were downloading it in our office.
So I suppose you just give them access or whatever to that
Yes.
file.
Yeah. So it's.
But that's always a subscription cost, whereas with the server, it's a one-time big fee.
Correct, and then you're just responsible for maintaining it, and then we would have to build in redundancies to it. That was one of the problems that we found out when Jordan was still here and we had the smaller NAS set up. Some way, somehow, the computers went down and there was no redundancy built into it, so Jordan spent hours upon hours trying to recover all that information. And he was good about our charging. He didn't charge us like he probably should have charged us, but we still didn't recover all that information. And that's pretty tough on the police department.
Do you retain your videos forever, or is there a certain time frame you have to legally keep them, or?
It depends on the particular circumstances. Typical traffic stops, we only keep for about 2 years.
Okay.
If there's no case that generates from it, it's usually about 6 months to a year. As of right now, we have to manually go in and delete them. So staffing doesn't allow us to spend all day doing that.
Yeah.
On a major crime, such as a felony, there's certain parameters, like you'll either keep it 5 years, 10 years, or indefinitely, depending on the level of the case. So there's some cases that we still have Polaroid pictures in files. That's how long we've had.
Nice work securing the 2 radios.
Thanks.
That's awesome. It makes this conversation a lot easier when you lay out the numbers the way you did.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. I think it makes a lot of sense to migrate to a standalone for the police department. I'll motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
In a perfect world, would you rather go to the subscription option right away or the server option?
If he smacked me, I'm blaming it on him. I would rather go to, look in the option of going to the server because it's on the cloud. And the amount of accessibility that we have benefits our agency.
So not this.
No, this
This.
would be, have to be in place.
Okay,
This
I'm
is-
sorry.
Before you went to the cloud?
Yes.
Cloud's just for storage.
Yep.
Right.
This
We're
is,
still
So you
going-
don't need the cloud
Even
right
if we
now?
do cloud storage, we're still going to need local storage,
correct.
Yeah, but you don't,
that 0 to 30 day time frame.
but you need access to that to be able to upload your stuff.
At some point. Once this gets
Yes.
forward.
If we decided to go to the cloud-based subscription, this would be a moot point regardless. We would still need this.
Yeah.
And then we just connect to the server. This would be our redundancy, is what I would look at this. The cloud service would be our primary storage. We would reroute everything. We're currently, right now, we have it going to a tower in our office. So just a general computer tower and a NAS system. So this would hold some redundancy, but probably not all. All important cases would go to this. The generalized cases that we're not as concerned would probably never see this server at all.
So if you went to the cloud-based storage, how much of your stuff would, like, what I'm trying to figure out is, do you need the full 2, whatever the bytes they were?
2 terabyte?
Yeah, but, or if you go to the cloud-based one, does it make sense to save that money on building that out and spend it on the cloud-based one if you're gonna keep your short-term stuff on the cloud anyways?
I would say 2 terabytes is a small amount of memory for what we are housing. And if we have to house anything in-house, some of our videos, because they're in such a high definition, will eat that 2 terabytes up. I would give it probably a year and I'd need to expand that on some of our cases. Because the cases that we have to save that would be put onto here are like major felonies, major crimes, aggravated assault, domestic assaults, those type of things. Things that we have to maintain and keep secure. But the cloud base is an afterthought. We can explore that. It's not a necessity right now.
All right, so we had a motion and a second. I'm gonna do roll call. Welch?
Aye.
Riley?
Aye.
Swear?
Aye.
Bowers?
Aye.
Doherty?
Aye.
All right,
Thank you guys, appreciate it.
thanks, Will.
Thanks, Will.
Next is city council appointments.
Mayor and Council, this was an item that was added at the request of Alderman Doherty and Swear, I believe, for discussion on moving forward with appointments to fill vacancies that did not have petitions turned in, so Ward 3 and Mayor.
Just like to initiate a discussion with our group here to figure out what's a good non-clunky process to designate candidates that we'd let our nominees for these appointed positions. I don't think any of us have gone through an open mayoral spot and how we move forward with that selection process, discussion process, review of the nominee, and a path going forward. Try to keep this as exposed as possible so it's not a good old boys club, so everyone in our community knows they're invited, involved, are welcome to engage with us and take a role in our governance.
So can we get clarification on the mayor seat? Is that a 1-year appointed term?
Both of them would fill terms until the next regularly scheduled election. So those 2 seats would be appointed, they would serve for 1 year, and then have to run for re-election at the next election to fill the remainder of the term, and then run again the following year, if they wish to retain their seat.
So the mayor would be a 1 year and then another 1-year term to fill the remainder, and
Right.
then it goes back to
Correct.
normal.
Yeah, so they'd have to run 2 years in a row if they
Yep.
wish to continue.
Is there I guess my idea is like, how can we solicit transparently with the community of, hey, is anybody interested? And then, is it like an opportunity where we can sit down and talk with them of like, what is your desire? And obviously, like, why do you wanna be on the council, or why do you wanna be the mayor? And,
There are applications, I did find a few applications to fill a vacancy on the city council. There are not a ton of them out there, just a quick web review look, and we found a few. As well as a vacancy filling process or procedure. I haven't looked too deeply at that yet, and I'm sure there's plenty others around. That was out of Nebraska. I do recall, back in my Sioux City, Iowa days, a vacancy on a school board, elected position. They had a vacancy midterm. They advertised, solicited applications, and had an interview process at one, I think it was at one meeting, public meeting.
so they did the interview in public?
Yeah.
I like that.
Again, we do not have to. You have the option under executive session to interview behind closed doors, if you so wish, for any officer or employee of the municipality. I think given the weight of the positions that you're appointing, it certainly makes sense to make that public to the degree that you can.
I think Sturgis is going through this right now as well. Their mayor stepped down,
Yes.
so
How are they handling it, do we know?
I watched one meeting and it's basically they had it open for 2 weeks, like some kind of application, and then are going, my understanding is have like a public interview.
I mean, that could be intimidating to some people too.
The public, yeah.
But I was appointed to my spot here.
I was too.
I knew there was another one. Sam and I were talking about this earlier. It's like, we're missing one.
And mine was just a former council member and then at the time a current council member. They got a telephone call from each of them. Hey, we think you'd be good in this position. Are you interested? That kind of. I went to a few meetings beforehand and just said yes. This is interesting, so I was appointed that term, I guess.
Well, what do you think we do here? Start with an advertisement and get word out just to the entire community?
Yeah,
And if that doesn't net any interest at all, we have discussions and try and figure out individuals to contact direct.
I think that's a good way to
Yeah.
approach it.
Get an application started before we advertise if possible.
Yeah.
Just to make, if people are interested on day one of that advertising, we'll make sure we have that application available. I don't think the current employment application is really
Right.
quite what we're looking for.
No.
Right.
Name, email, cell phone.
Well, we had something simple when we were looking for Park and Rec board members too.
Mhm.
I mean, similar, just, what
Yeah.
they're.
Ask about civic involvement, if I remember right.
I would circle on the map what the boundaries of Ward 3 are,
Yeah, I think we can include that with the application.
make sure they fall within there. And as far as a public interview, I mean, I think if you're gonna sit up here,
Oh, I agree.
you gotta be up for a public interview.
Part of the deal.
Twice a month.
No, I agree. I'm just saying, if you wanna get people, some people aren't comfortable in this situation,
Kind
as
of
far as being,
part of the meeting.
as far as being interviewed,
No, I get it.
One of the questions that I read through a couple of times this weekend, and I still don't feel confident in answering it, is who makes the appointment? There is a vacancy. We've got a notice of vacancy, so we know that. State code says the remaining members appoint when there's a vacancy. So what I want to find out is if this body as a whole can make that appointment prior to the April 9 election. My guess is that's probably not what we should do, because we should wait until after the election. But if it's going to be the next meeting where we certify the results, is it the whole body that appoints? Or is it just the 5 remaining members, which will make it the 5 hiring council members because there would be no time in that case. So, that's one of the things that I've got.
Like I said,
What is the wording of the law?
Remaining council members appoint.
So that tells you the remaining people that are left.
Well, there'd only be 4 left.
There would be 4 left, correct? There'd be 5 left.
There'd be 5 council members and no mayor.
So the 5, the council minus Alderman Riley would be making the appointment. So the question is that accurate? Is that correct? I think it is, but
I guess I don't understand what the alternative one that you're considering.
that all 6 of you appoint.
People, yeah, so like Chad and the mayor would be,
To me, it says.
Now, with 5, you eliminate the opportunity for a tie,
right?
which eliminates the mayor regardless. But if there were to be some discussion or disagreement on who that appointment were to be, you know, and then the mayor, let's say there's disagreement on who you appoint for mayor, does the mayor then get to cast a tie vote on the appointing of that
Of the
seat?
mayors?
No.
Because I don't view them, just no offense, but you're not part of the next
I
session,
don't, I
so.
agree,
Yeah,
I,
no.
I read
don't
it that
understand
they're
why they would.
Okay,
It's
if
the
that's the feeling that everybody's got, that's easy
That's
enough
how
to
I
move forward with.
understand it as well, they're
Okay.
mayor members.
Perfect, thank you.
And then, when would that be? Because our last meeting is May 13th?
It'll be the second meeting in April, I think, is when that appointment should be made,
Okay.
after the election,
And we would have our last
after the election.
meeting
when the
of
election
this session and start and stop,
On
or
May
stop and start.
is. Yeah, so you would have the final meeting of this council, first meeting in May.
Right.
We'd adjourn that council, the new council would convene, and then, I think the first order of business is going to be of making those appointments, and then we can get into the whole.
Visitors to be heard and the.
Well, that would be under the old, but you've got the organizing items under the mayor for city engineer, city
Committees.
attorney,
Right.
newspaper.
Well, I would think you'd maybe hold off on that if you're just appointing the person. I mean, they might not even know what it all entails.
You know, we do our best when, you know, between April 9 election and the first.
We would almost need to, if we're gonna
But,
do
but
the
you
interview-
can't appoint, if you're not gonna appoint anyone until then, how can you
We
possibly?
would need to do the interviews and everything ahead of that.
Before then,
We would
Yeah.
need to have our decision made before then.
yes.
But,
Because we couldn't show up to that meeting and then have arguments of who we're gonna pick.
Right.
I think that'd be a massive waste of time.
Right.
Let's start the.
I think you've got, I think, given the fact that none of these seats are actually changing, and there's no actual election, I don't see any harm in starting the process now.
So the 5 remaining would be the ones that would make that call,
Correct.
basically on the city attorney and the newspaper and all that.
I mean, I should look at that before.
Because you're not gonna be able to get
I think
the
the
new
first
seats
meeting,
up to speed to, you know, we might have to have another meeting after May. the first
Yeah.
week of May.
I mean, I don't think there's any reason we can't hold off a meeting to make those appointments. Just continue the current.
but I mean, I just don't know how you expect someone to show up, get sworn in, and then, oh, by the way, I know nothing, but I'm gonna divvy up all these different committees. Just seems.
That happened 4 years ago. Saying.
You had a pretty decent idea. You were a little involved before.
And any applicant, you know, and those of you that have been here last 4 years, maybe 5, you've gotten a briefing, a binder with a long briefing and information when you joined. You know, we can certainly make that available to any of the applicant candidates so that they have, you know, anything that's not confidential. I have all that information before they get to this point. Yeah, I
Do you
think,
think it makes sense to have almost like a public information of what it means to be a council member, what it means to be a mayor? To kind of get them like, because some people might be like, well, I'm interested in city government, but I don't know what's the time commitment? Like, what am I signing up for? How do we get that in the hands of the public to help kind of solicit?
It's like
That it's not-
offering to write an article.
That it's not a big
Publish
scary,
today.
that's not
So what
a
I'm
big
hearing
scary.
is
Opportunity.
Chad's
Right.
when opportunity presents itself, we'll take it. Are you
I
wanting
think-
like an open house?
One thing like a Q&A, like someone can come, like, we're not gonna interview you tonight, but if you're interested to come and like learn more about what it entails, like, I don't know. we'll give you
Facebook
a show.
Live.
Facebook Live?
Yeah, probably where you're gonna reach the most people.
Right.
I'd like to think that if there are people interested, all of our information is readily available.
Right,
to
they can
contact
watch
anyone,
meetings, they can look up the
Right.
You know,
agendas.
to ask us questions, but.
And hopefully if some folks come forward in the next 2 weeks, they'll be involved in our meetings going forward as just.
Firsthand,
Yeah, come see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
much like you.
Thank you.
So just to wrap it up, you're gonna work on a
I'm
job
gonna work on
description?
a timeline, an application, we'll get notice out, we'll advertise as many places as we can locally. I'll do a boosted post on Facebook, I'll talk to Carly about what that looks like. But I'm sure she can put.
Is there a deadline where we wanna have everyone interested
I'm gonna
come
put-
forward by
Yeah, I'm gonna
X
put a
date?
timeline together as well, so.
So are these gonna be special meetings when these interviews are done, or are they gonna be during the regular meeting?
Good job.
Sorry. I just-
I'll leave that at the council's discretion.
So, because in March, we already have a or on the 18th, we have an extra meeting for the
Correct.
taxes. So March,
Probably don't want it that night.
You do?
March 18th.
Yeah, that night will be long enough.
I don't expect many appeals this year, but
Well, I do.
What's that date again?
18.
So. Anyway,
I think let's see how many applications we get, and we'll figure out if this is gonna be at these meetings, or, I mean, it'd be at least an educational experience for somebody that wants to be nominated to attend and see what actually happens here.
Had some good conversations going door to door with my petition about council and what it all entails. A lot of folks just don't really pay attention to it because it just happens seamlessly for most people. So the Q&A that I engaged with 2 different couples was really energizing. And you know, informing them that it's 2 Mondays a month where we get together. You know, you study and read over the course of your weeks in between to keep up to speed, but it's, you know, your chance to be involved in your community. And I expressed invitations to come sit with us, you know, come down and be a part of a council meeting. They said, well, whatever comes of it. And I explained the situation about trees on a corner in Central Basin 4 and how residents came and expressed concerns. Later on that night, we were there with an engineer and addressed some of those concerns. The trees are still standing. That happened directly from citizen engagement at a council meeting. You know, there's power in all of these folks that live in our community to come and engage with us. And when they realize that they have a voice, it feels pretty good. I hope folks get that and understand that this is what we are here to do, is represent them.
Cheers for democracy.
all right, well, this will be an interesting process. We will look through, so. Next is resolution 2023-12-1101.
Should be 2024.
Oh, I was just reading what's on there.
Sorry. Mayor and council. No, you're right, it's 2011 or 2023. If you look at page 4, top of page 4, there's a gray area that talks about the changes that we're making here. These are 4 changes for our ambulance fees. Just need to be cleaned up a little. We had just kind of quick thoughts on a few of them on the last resolution, so we're fixing an error on the last resolution here. Mayor, before you sign it, I just want to make sure I put the right title on this.
Okay. So the same
2024.
line items were on the last one, just had the wrong dollar amount?
Yeah, it's just the wrong dollar amount. Yep.
And they're correct now?
Yes.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Good motion, a second, any discussion there? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we will approve resolution 23-12-1101. nothing on personnel, so I will look for a motion to go into executive session.
So move.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, 7:55, we'll go into exec.
All right, good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.